Hello, everyone. Welcome to VR Verdict Podcast, episode 144, our weekly podcast where we talk about everything VR. I'm PJ.
Wookie.
We're here to share VR with you. So
Not
yeah,
you.
we haven't done an episode. We're still transitioning our space to a new platform. Things have happened, so we can do mini shows here yet. So that's what we're doing. And this week we're going to talk about some PSVR2.
Yes, indeed.
So it's been out. I don't know, as of today, it's like a week and 2 days, 3 days, something like that. How many hours would you guess that I've had that headset on my head this week?
Pushing 60.
You're very, very close. I don't have an exact total, but just going off my streams I've done and guessing on the other part, it's right around 60. So, and I haven't even played all the games or all the demos. They've got some demos out there, which I think is really smart, which normally in the VR world isn't really a thing because you can just return games within a 2-hour window on most platforms, so they don't bother with demos. But consoles have always been different, so it's kind of nice to check things out.
It's nice because sometimes there's like an arcade sort of vibe. Like you get in like, oh sweet, I'm gonna play I'm gonna try this and try that, and then you don't have a credit card blocking them, even though you can return it. Pain.
Yeah.
So demos are kind of fun.
So I took that chance to play the Resident Evil game.
Oh no.
And I woke up in the woods. I won't share too many details, but it's quite an experience. I woke up in the woods, made my way through the creepy fucking forest to find the shack, and I opened the door, and before anything really happened, I'm like, I'm done.
So nothing happened. It was just the suspense.
Walking through the woods, like you hear shit, and then rocks start falling, and I'm like, I barely made it to that shed. Like this is nothing. Like I'm gonna go play runner and ride around on a motorbike and shoot things. So yeah, the headset's been out. I've really been impressed and enjoying it. It was, it comes out at $550 for the headset. There's a couple accessories I kind of think are necessary, but if you already have the console, it's a great way to get into VR if you haven't. But the main reason, so I've said this, but I've never owned a PlayStation myself. I've always been an Xbox, Nintendo person. PlayStation said, "Hey, we're going to support VR," and this is their second rendition. So I'm like, "Looks good. I'm getting it." And the main reason I got it was Call of the Mountain, and I was excited for that. And that's probably been and not that it's bad or anything. We'll get into it, but my least favorite, less time spent in game so far.
Interesting. Some people are like, that's all they do, and it's the best thing ever. And climbing up the top and the mountains and stuff is the bee's knees.
Yeah, so it is gorgeous, and it runs amazingly. Like the first 10 minutes are fucking awesome, but I am tired of climbing up this mountain. And I've seen the comments like, well, the name says it all. Like, no, it doesn't. It says Call of the Mountain, not Climb of the Mountain.
Yeah.
So I mean,
you have a dwarf game called Call of the Mountain, and they'll go in the mountain. They don't climb it.
Like, again, I'm gonna finish it, and there's like fighting and stuff, but mainly you're just climbing stuff. And I love climbing in VR, but only like when it makes sense. Like there's a ladder, I should be able to climb that, or whatever it might be. I don't mind a little climbing, but it's like half-hour climbing, 5 minutes of something. Like, and again, it's gorgeous and it's awesome, but if you don't like climbing, beware.
I mean, I can see that if you just want like a different type of experience, like just climbing. There's games that are just about climbing in VR.
Yeah.
So like I get it, but if you're they've set expectations for something else, it's like weird. But if there was an open world game, I would go climb the mountain, and even if you're not supposed to.
And that's kind of like they didn't really I don't think like they tricked anyone or tried to, but I got that game based on the flat versions of that game, which is an open world and you can do things. And granted, it's a VR version, but like, why climbing? Like, they don't get me wrong, the ways they find to make you climb differently is pretty impressive. But it's just, at the end of the day, it's like, all right, especially if you're not a height person. Like, that's another thing in VR. Like,
Mm-hmm.
in some of these clips, like, is it Shadow Brigade? Here I go with bad names. Light Brigade, sorry. Like,
It's a
half
shadow instead of light.
the exact opposite.
It was there. It was there though.
Yeah. And not all it's randomly generated, but if that's playing while I'm talking, because it is for me, some of the maps, like, there's no ground. Like, there's so many VR games with no ground. It's like, VR is still new. People are getting used to it. Some people have issues. Like, why is there so many things with no ground that, like, I've worked on phone poles installing cable in my past, and height doesn't really bother me, but I don't necessarily enjoy it either. Like, if you watch my videos of Call of the Mountain, like, every chance I get when I'm can look down when you normally shouldn't, and they say don't look down, I do, and it's fine. But like after a half hour, that like my hands are a little sweaty, and it's like exhausting.
Yeah.
So it's like that's not enjoyable. Then. But anyway, enough of that.
Well,
Um,
one last thing about it is like you said, an open world game. If there was like the Skyrim stuff that had the mountains like that, I would climb them just to see what's up there. Somebody's going to put something up there, right?
yeah,
But if you kind of shrink the scope down to where like that is it, and you kind of know that that's it, and that's sort of like, why don't I just go play one of the mountain climbing games for mountain climbing? Like, because you're like,
yeah,
again, our expectations are what kill us. You're expected to be this, and it's not that. You can
yeah.
separate that. You can enjoy it for what it is, and you're doing that. It sounds like, but it's like, well, the blame there's on 50-50. Players are expecting sometimes too much. They need to curb and manage expectations. But then again, company that comes out with it's just like a full on Zelda game or what.
Yeah.
I played the first one and it was like, oh, it was all right. But you're shooting bow and arrow at stuff constantly and all this stuff. You're kind of not expecting like an amusement park ride. Like, hey, let's take Alloy under the sea for 40 minutes. Like,
Yeah.
okay, I mean, I'd be down with that, but like, that's not what the other. Not that it has to be the same thing, but it's like
Yeah.
weird that you would just take a tiny slice and go way off the rails with it. Because the only mountain climbing I remember in the original was like you see those yellow markers and you can jump off and use a grappling hook when you can never
Hmm.
ever use grappling hooks anywhere else. It has to be there, and it's like okay.
Yeah. There is a
Somebody like
good amount of climbing in the flat games, but that's not the base. So that was kind of
it's
like I said,
means to an end, yeah.
yeah, the opening 10 minutes are amazing and the combat is really quite fun. So it's like, why did we focus on this?
Yeah,
My
it
only other
seems
thing,
like a
and
shame.
again, game is beautiful, runs great. I still recommend it. Just be warned that you're going to be climbing a lot. The way, I don't know if the team is newer to VR, but like the button choices and things, like it's still not super VR friendly. Like one of the ways to climb after a bit, you build pickaxes and you climb up. But if I come to a gap to jump, I swing my hands like this and I jump, and that's cool. And then you go flying at this wall, and then if you have those pickaxes, you can pull them out from behind your back and grab them. Otherwise, they have like you have to hit A and X, and that brings up a radial wheel for each hand, and then you like pick items, and it's like that's gross to in VR. Like some of the choices are weird, but again, overall, like I still recommend it, but just kind of odd. Because if like right now I'm watching the opening 10 minutes,
Oh, I see
and
it.
you're on a
See the
boat,
pedal in the boat.
and that fucking gator, multiple gators come at you, like it's pretty fucking cool. And then you're
I saw somebody
underwater.
that I assumed was trying to help somebody off a bridge. Like the
Yeah,
guy's like hanging a bridge and just gator comes and takes him. Yeah, that
yeah,
one. Yeah,
yeah. I still recommend it, but just be warned, you're getting what you're getting into. It's pretty sweet, but it's a lot of climbing.
like, and again, seems counterintuitive, but like putting a climbing mechanic in a game just to get some secrets seems like a lot of work if it's not the main focal point of the game. But like if you had like a dungeon game, there's been some dungeon games you climb around and you get up to another level. If it sets up a new way to play a level and you don't have to, you're not supposed to, whatever, and you can kind of feel like you're sneaking around, that makes it worth it. More work on the dev because that's like 2% of the gameplay, but
Yeah.
it makes it feel more genuine instead of like climbing as the activity. Like if you didn't buy a mountain climbing game, you guess what? You have a mountain climbing game. Oh, hey, there's the clip of the gator
Yeah.
on the bridge. Bam.
And that's kind of, I think, part of me is like, there's so much awesome, beautiful places to explore. Why am I stuck on the rocks? But yeah, it's still pretty good. I don't know how I haven't looked like the runtime or playtime. $60, like it looks worth it. But again, if you're not into climbing, you might want to wait for a sale. But overall, I think everyone should give it a try. Just maybe not at $60 if you don't like climbing. And that's
Well, how
another
long
thing.
is the game? Is it like a full game or is it like a smaller, and because I
I
don't have PSVR2, but a lot of VR games are like $30 because they're
Yeah,
smaller. Is this not smaller? Is it like a full length game just about climbing the mountain?
I don't know the runtime. I didn't look it up because I try not to spoil it for myself. If I remember right, I thought I saw somewhere like a 6-ish hours or so. Um,
Is that worth $60?
I think overall, if you don't mind the climbing, yeah, it's definitely worth it. But like I said, if you want to check it out but aren't into climbing, I'd wait for a sale.
I'm
I'm
just saying
not.
like the time frame. I mean, I know it's a different thing. I don't want to say like you don't
Yeah,
have to, I don't want to pay the devs. I'll pay people what it's worth, but it's like a 6 hour game.
yeah,
Doesn't sound like it's worth $60. You can go get like a 90-hour game. Not that you like every game has to be 90 hours and shoved full of
right.
Ubisoft Assassin's Creed map style stuff, but like
Yeah,
6 hours.
the story's good. Like I would like right now. I think I've played. Like I said, I've played the least amount of every other game I've played on the headset. I think I'm like 2 hours in, and I'd say it's like a 7 or 8 out of 10 if you want to throw a number at it. But just the climbing, like anything else, would be like I'd probably still be playing it like right now.
I
And
mean,
that's
that's
one
cool.
thing.
I don't have a calibration for like what makes a VR game worth a certain amount. Because again, flat games
Yeah,
have kind of chiseled it into like if I paid $60 and got a 6 hour Xbox game, I'd kind of be like, oh fuck.
yeah,
Um, so I don't know if it's different with PSVR2.
and that's what I'm kind of like. Like you said, traditionally VR games have been on the cheaper side, and that's kind of I've been doing VR so long now. Like I'm used to those price points. So like when traditional flat games come out, like Hogwarts Legacy, that's like an $80 game, and that I had to like convince myself. I'm so glad I did because that game's amazing. But like on PS5, you have that kind of same thing. Like games are like 40, $50, and it's like, okay, how do you quantify that?
Yeah,
Um, but
because
again,
like
it's
if the experience is worth it, you can quantify that, and you shouldn't go by other
yeah,
people's metrics. Like if
right.
you're happy with, it, you're happy with it. But like the graphics, I'm looking at the Star Wars one right now. Like graphical fidelity, yeah, it's beautiful, and hey, it plays well, and it's fine. But if it's 4 to 6 hours, then it's kind of like there are games out there that are way longer, way just as enjoyable with like
Yeah.
a lot less time spent on the graphics. And I know some people are like, "Oh, it looks like a potato," but like if you shed expectations and focus on the experience, comparison is the thief of joy most of the time. Like you can enjoy a hell of a lot without AAA graphics.
Oh yeah. Yeah, it's for me,
And
it's always like gameplay. Like if it's fun, I don't care what it looks like. Yes, great graphics help, and I take screenshots and all the pretty
mhm.
games I have, and that's like half of my playtime. But
I'd get that completely too. Because I mean, when you see something that looks good, it's like, holy shit, that looks crazy good. But then it's also like a lot of those games that get in there and like, oh, like I haven't jumped back into Cyberpunk 2077 since launch. I'm waiting to because I just need more. I got a lot to look. But like, I want to see what they've done to fix it. But it's also like that game looked fantastic, and I was playing it for a while. But then it started to creep in. Like I was playing for like I don't know 15, 20 hours, and it started to creep in. Like nothing really seems connected or whatever. Um, and it was weird. It wasn't what they were sold, so I was kind of like, I'm gonna wait. Um,
Yeah.
but like the graphics, like I don't know, like PSVR2, some of those games, Horizon Call of the Mountain looked fantastic. But if I bought it again, I would have to try to separate those expectations. That'd be like 6 hours of climbing a mountain. Mm, like maybe there's more later. I don't know because you said if you haven't played it, but it's like, and I'm not saying I wouldn't like the game. I haven't played it, but I'm still trying to gauge the feel of like,
Yeah.
games are expensive. They should be expensive if they're quality. Like I mentioned something on a Twitter thread of somebody's like, oh, games are going up $70, and it's like, well, I wish they wouldn't, but if the artists and the people doing the work are getting paid, that's great. Because I remember being, I don't know what age we were when Mario Kart on the SNES came out, but seeing that at like Kmart for like $55 or something was like, oh,
Mm-hmm.
like an insurmountable thing. And like with all the other inflation, games are still like $59.99 most of them, and like that one
Yeah.
was $60, and they're still $60, and it's sort of like, holy shit.
Like, regular Nintendo games were normally 65 back in the day. Think about that.
People are forgetting how to look back and like say, this is how it was, this is how it is. I'm not happy with how things are going, or maybe things, are going better and I need to shut up. Like different things. They're not looking back and remembering that crap. They're just taking what they get now. But I still want to quantify that stuff because like I could buy a PS5, PS4. I mean, if I could find them, I could have the new Xbox, new P. I could do all that stuff, and I don't really mind or care. But I just don't see like I'm trying to look for value base versus time, and like the amount of fucking fun we've had in VR without paying another $1,200 for the stuff, and then full priced games for 6 hours of things like Pavlov and things. We played the hell out of that stuff. I think Pavlov stopped updating other things to focus on their PSVR game. Have you played that?
No, again, so here's where like the headsets, I think it's great, and it's bringing VR to a whole nother. PSVR one was the
Yeah.
best selling VR headset because of the console base.
Mm-hmm.
So it's doing a lot of good there. But like me having most of these games already, it's hard to justify. Like Pavlov, I think they're charging 30, maybe even $40 for it. And it's like I have two versions of it already.
You're right.
I can't do that just to check it out. And if the dev gave me a key, yeah, I'd definitely swing in there. But like, and I never asked yet, but I can't justify that. But having said that, I did redouble buy Runner and Star Wars Tales from the Galaxy because that Star Wars game's probably my second or third favorite VR game of all overall personally. Runner, you know, we get free games and stuff from devs, and if I really like it, I'll still buy a couple
Mm-hmm.
copies. We'll give keys out. So I had no problem paying $15 for that game because that game, if you've seen my streams, like I fucking love that game. It feels
Mm-hmm.
great. It's fun. I've gone through. I haven't even beat it on one headset yet. So I'm level 6. I just beat the train yesterday, and the next level is fucking hard, and I love it. But it's puts you like, the adopters. It puts in that weird spot. Like what's all these games that are out, they've called like enhanced and they've added. Like if even with Demio, if you saw the clip there, it looks so much better than it does on PC VR, and it's like how the like. Okay, I get it. It's been out for a while, but you put all this work in there, and I know you're trying to help the PS2, the PSVR2 launch, and make it exciting and give a little value to those that might want to buy it again. But it's like, are you going to go back and update the PC version? Like, because 3 games are like that. Like they look so much better than they do on PC VR. It's like that doesn't make sense.
Now, with those, it's always curious to me, like if they updated the graphics specifically, or sometimes consoles are just more dedicated hardware, and they're just sometimes better. Like you can crank a PC, but you got to have like this big of
Yeah.
a PC to get the same kind of performance. Consoles can sometimes just seem like they're just tight packages.
Yeah, and that's when we get back up and running. I want to have some of those devs in here and kind of ask those questions because I'm curious too. Like, did you redo everything, or is this just like a console trick? That because like we've played a lot of Demio, we've had them on the podcast a lot, many variations, and I booted up not expecting anything different. I'm like, it looks almost like a pretty much new game. Like it's that much better looking. And if you're watching, I apologize for my racing clips. I noticed this while I was streaming. I start shaking my leg and bouncing the headset.
I see that. Is that what's going on there?
Yeah, I tried to find clips. These were the prettier clips, and I'm like, I don't want people to think that's a VR thing. That's just me having fun and being excited.
Were you shaking your leg to music, or were you doing that like fidgety, twitchy thing that I slap you for?
It was music.
Okay. If that's weird, folks, like if you sit on the couch next to Peach, I don't know if you still do this, it's been a while, but some people do a thing with like they're like, I'm gonna put my controller here as like my knee, and then they just do this, like they're bouncing their heel up and down on the ball of their foot. And we'll be sitting on a couch watching a movie, and then the whole couch starts shaking. I'm like, knock it off! Like do that on your own time. It's like you're sitting here, and I'm like, I feel like food moving around and stuff. It's like the perfect oscillation to like you got a pain in a back muscle, or you really got to get a fart out. It's like right there, and it's like your stomach starts going like, I don't know what's going on, but I'm gonna do stuff.
Yeah.
And, your teeth start clanking together. Like, what the hell?
Yeah, I normally do it when I'm like enjoying something. So that's a good sign, but not good to like, hey, look at this. Oh, that looks fucking jumpy as hell. That's just me.
Especially in a first person thing like VR. Like,
yeah.
I can see it's like there was a whole corner where before the corner it was fun. You get through the corner, you're like, boom, 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 boom. Need to run some stabilization on that. But I mean, how is the racing game, the Gran Turismo game? Because some people are like the best fucking thing ever, and then I've been seeing Techman Juice tweets, and he's just like, "Hey guys, like temper yourself. This is great, but it's like PCVR is like on top still." But some people are like, "It's the best thing on the fucking planet."
So my whole thing with this headset, and it's mainly just because of the console thing, is ease of use. Like Gran Turismo 7 looks great, plays great. It was a flag game that they updated and brought VR2. So it's not as pretty as Project Cars 2, which we've played. But you remember trying to pop into that and like the menus and buttons and all that, like that's gone. Like you just hop in and go. Like so it looks great, but it's not as beautiful, but it still looks pretty damn good, and it's like smooth as butter.
And that's, I mean, you can't ever have everything, but like PSVR2 added, Project Cars 2 has VR, billion cars, billion tracks. We want to pick like a specific type of car and a specific track. That is kind of a clunky mess. But once you get in the race, it's fine. So I'm glad they have updated their VR controls. Do they have the same amount of options? Like you can choose a car, choose a track, or is it just
it's same amount of options. I mean, because this was a full like their main racing game, just like Forza is for Xbox. This is Sony's version, so it's all there, and you can do all of it in VR. There's no like some of those games that went from flat to VR on PC. Like you got part of the game. It's the full game. The only thing that I hate about this game, just so everyone knows, the first time you fire it up, there's like this 30-minute video of like history that plays, and it's really neat, but it's like, I'm not here for that. And if you don't go into the options and shut that off, it's going to do that every time you load up the game. I found that out a very hard way. I was so fucking mad.
Can you skip the video?
Nope.
So you have to
there's
watch it like once, and then you go to
you
the
have
settings.
you have to watch it every time until you turn the option off to this plays every time I open the game.
You can't get there until after the video.
Yes,
So you watch
correct.
the video, go turn those fucking settings off immediately, or turn that
Yes.
off in the settings, and you're fine. But still,
Yep.
30 minutes. I hate that shit. I would rather have a
Yeah.
button to be like credits.
Yep.
You know, like
It's really neat and stuff, but it's like, again, especially in VR, like I'm expecting to hop in a car and go drive. I'm not looking for a 30-minute video with my headset on. Like,
mhm.
other than that, it's amazing. And going back to the ease of everything, so like I said, we've played Project Cars 2 on PC in VR, loved it, had a lot of fun. The menu system and all that is half the reason I never wanted to like get a wheel and
Mhm.
accessories, because it's like there's already enough work there that I don't
Yeah.
want to add to it. But thankfully, I don't remember, it was a Logitech G29 or something, was almost half
Yeah.
off yesterday. It's probably still there if you're hearing this. Grabbed it. Pretty sure my wife will get me a shifter and a rig for it for my birthday coming up real soon. So I'm excited because you have a wheel, and you kind of butt dialed and bought it, which was awesome, and got to
That was
try it while
hilarious.
I was visiting and stuff. And I know how great they are, and everyone's like, "Oh, it adds this whole layer of immersion." I'm like, yeah, it does. But my game room walls also continually close in on me because I have too much shit.
Yeah.
That was the other reason, aside from adding more work to the game to get set up. But again, going back to the console, you plug it in, you're good. There's no fidgeting, all that stuff.
And
But
that's why I like that they make racing wheel stuff that are PS5 and PC. I think mine's Xbox and PC, but like build quality, people. I think mine's not Logitech. It's Thrustmaster. It's a fantastic wheel. Got crazy good. Like your tire goes off the road a little bit, and it's like pulling. It's fucking amazing. But the
yeah,
connections, people, I haven't damaged it all at all. I haven't really mistreated it. I am insane about like cable connectors. Like girlfriend borrows like a phone charger, or sometimes she'll borrow my like the Quest charging thing to do that. And I'm like looking over there, like if you're picking it up by the cord, like not that she does that's example, but like I'm watching that stuff. Like I am in it's I've dropped like a phone on the charging port with the cable in there, and then the whole thing's useless. Cable and phone just don't snaps. But like my Thrustmaster wheel, the connector, which most of those things they're like one of them's almost like an old phone plug or something that you can plug into like the pedals that for communication. The only connector that's not like one you can pull out, it's got the weird, ribbed, tapered, big rubber thing for protection, broke on its own. It's like that's the whole problem. I've like been buying collapsible cable replacements from like maybe that's loose. It's literally like right there, like you twist it and it won't work. So I have to tear the thing apart and solder it back together. It's like these wheels are expensive and they're probably a pain in the ass to make. I get that, but like, do not cheap out on the
yeah,
fucking cable connectors. Good God, got this huge armored plastic thing. I can be beating on this thing all day long, and the cable, me like, I guess maybe been janking and jiving and turning, like wobbled it, and it was like, you know what? I'm just my soldering thing. I'm just gonna go. It's so fucking annoying. So I get like that's the biggest thing for me in like PC gaming. I like console games and PC games, and I like how you can buy games on like Steam. So like a game that you can't really play on the console anymore, you can probably still play it on Steam. It's kind of like my backup, but it's
yeah,
so complicated with all these accessories, and each one's you go, well, if you don't want to figure it out, don't buy it. But it's like each one's a huge pain in the ass of its own right. It's like Windows Audio sucks. Trying to get the audio, everything sucks. The
yeah.
fucking wheel
And
brake sucks. The
if
tool
you
to get the wheel
spend
to work
500
sucks.
bucks on a steering wheel, you should plug it in and go. Like, I don't, those fuckers that say like you don't want to learn how to use it, can go fuck off. Like, I paid this amount of money for it. I don't have this much, value in my free time. I want to plug that cable in and go. Like, shut the fuck up.
Right, but it's like, and again, I understand like if this wheel is older, you can't support stuff forever. But the software for the wheel is like named the same as some components of Windows that deal with controllers. So trying to figure out which one's primary, trying to figure out and troubleshoot It's the same fucking name. So how am I? If I'm Windows is getting confused trying to pick one, how am I not going to get confused? And the tool is like archaic, and
Yeah.
it's like, oh my god! In the history of drivers for like not wheels and stuff, just the fucking application drivers. How do people not fucking have that smooth yet?
Yeah.
And I'm gonna go off. This is not about gaming, but it's that stuff that gets in the way of like PC VR for me too. Because like we bought laptops on Black Friday, first laptop I've ever bought because like it's cheaper than the video card that's already in the laptop for PC. Trying to fit that in my micro case is getting hard because they're massive. Like plugging in a printer, and this just happened. Girlfriend, like she has all these printers for crafts and Etsy stores and stuff like that, and like $500 printers. But there's the one we use to print like shipping labels. Try to plug it in, she couldn't figure out the printer thing, which I always expect. Here's like 3 hours of my life if I'm going to mess with a
Mm-hmm.
fucking printer. I hate them. Plug that in to Windows. Windows says, okay, installed it, good. And then Windows didn't know this. Windows 11 locks those registry entries as drivers and stuff like that. So when you try to like finish up, it doesn't do it. Nothing tells you this. You had to go find it on Reddit after 2 hours and mess with it. The trick is you plug the fucking thing in, you remove it all from the system, plug it in. Windows does this thing. You remove it from the system while it's still plugged in because the plug-in action pings Windows to do it. Then you can run the fucking software because Windows like does it, blocks it, and it's like, fuck, it's just like the racing wheel. It's like,
Yeah.
how dumb does this have to be? So if it like the biggest draw for me, like the only reason I'm thinking about maybe even getting the PSVR2 is like what you just said, where it's like the barriers might be gone. You plug it up and go. I'll just say, what, throw some
Yeah.
other stuff out and just get that. I hate that
And
I have like
it's
console after console I don't use, but
yeah. And it's also with like streaming, like Quest streaming is a fucking pile of shit. I don't care who
right.
says what. This, you have everything on and you say, hey, I'm going to stream to YouTube or Twitch, and you're done. Like, it's just built in. Like, even on PC, it takes me with a headset on or off, like 5 minutes to set that up. Like, they even have it down so, like, when you bring up, hey, I'm going to stream to YouTube, brings up the window, type in the game name. It's remembered everything I've typed into it. So, like, typing in Light Brigade or Star Wars Tales from the fucking Galaxies on a controller is a pain in the
Mm.
ass. It's remembered all of them. So like I type the first two letters, hit a button, that word's there, and it takes 2 seconds. Like it's just nice.
It's a mature operating system. Even Android's
Yeah.
not mature yet. Like sounding archaic here again. I still miss the fucking silver BlackBerry from like 2010 because it's like it didn't fucking buzz notifications while you're on a fucking phone call with a fucking HOA, and you're like, and they're like, what the hell is that? And I'm like people don't think of that shit. So tiny tidbits like that, if somebody's really messed with the UX, the user experience, that's what the experience, like UI is the stuff, UX is user experience, is the most important thing that everyone overlooks. Is like,
Yeah.
if I fucking hate getting in here, I'm going to play it a third of the time. Like I sit down, I'm like, I've
Yep.
got 30 minutes to play. Xbox, it didn't auto update. It didn't auto update itself. It didn't auto update the games. Warcraft, sat down last night. It didn't auto update. It didn't take long. So you're still able to get in. Like, each one's going to take 15 minutes of my 30 minutes. I'm like, well, shit. But if you can just literally plug on, like, how long does it take you from like, I just walked in the room to sit down and playing PSVR2?
So there's a few things with that, but right out of the gate, not long. So I put my controllers on my wrist, and I want to come back to controllers.
And we have
Put controllers on my
limit. I might have
wrist.
pushed us. I want to keep cognizant of our time limits. I might
Well,
have pushed us down.
so video watchers, if we may cut out because the time on the system isn't exact. So if we're in the middle of something and you want to hear what we say, we're going to keep going until we're done. Check out the audio version. We'll have links in both. Just FYI. So anyway, I put the controller straps on my wrist, let the controllers dangle. Actually, I'll use the start button on there to start the system up. I'll put my headset on, and then you're basically, and it takes like a minute. The only thing I added, because this headset comes with earplugs, and the PSVR one was the same, so those of you that have that, you know what you're expecting. And surprisingly, these earplugs work really well, sound really good. But if you're not an earplugs guy like me, and I fucking hate that system on this headset because, again, my average play time is 2.5 hours at a go. Those earbuds start falling out, and nothing breaks
Mhm.
immersion like that. Like that's worse than
Yeah.
almost anything, unless it's like a visual like issue where like things are like in your face or something. Because you go to lean or something, and
Like,
your earbud
ears
falls
get
out, you can't
sweaty
hear shit.
after you get sweaty after a while in
Yeah,
VR too. So like,
yeah.
I have to mow my lawn later today, and if I have earbuds in to listen to music, which is probably damaging to your ear, I've had one slip out. I've had to crank the music and like look through my grass to try to find the earbud, look for the blinking light stuff. Nothing is worse than that,
So
especially if your headset on. You're like, where did it go? Trying to catch crap. Oh,
yeah, and it's another cable on each side of your head. So I'm not a fan. It works really well, and I'm glad it comes that way, and you have options because you can then kind of
right.
upgrade as you go. Thankfully, I have Arctis, a very weird name, headphones that I got specifically for the PS5. They fit right over the headset. They sound fucking amazing. So put the controllers on, start the system up, put the headset on, put my headphones on, and I'm in. That's it.
It's literally that simple. And then the
Yep.
UI is a little bit better. Like, no offense to any PlayStation, I don't do any console wars. I am agnostic. I will figure anything out if it's fun enough. I don't care. But I've always hated the PlayStation controllers, except that touchpad that's like a mouse pad and stuff. Some of the PS4 controller stuff's the last one I have is pretty good. And then the UI has always just been cheap to me.
Yeah.
So if they nailed it on PSVR2, how do they go from like kind of cheap feeling UI to like, and I think I've said it before, I think in an old podcast episodes, the main thing I had a problem with was I was trying to use a PSVR, sorry, I'm mixing things. PS4 to like, I don't remember if it was like watch movies. I had to keep like changing video and audio settings every single time I used it. It was like, no, I'll take the crap Xbox. I mean, not too crap, but it's like, the app sucked on Xbox or whatever Netflix was working. I don't know. Like, how did they nail the UI if they can't do their flat screen UI?
So I don't know what PS4 looked like, so I can only talk from the PS5 side of things. So you put the headset on, boot it up, and it just brings up the normal home screen of the system, and then you say there's like a main box or tile with like all the VR options you can quickly access, which is kind of nice. And then you just launch a game and you're in VR. So um, on the headset, there's the power button underneath, and when you turn on and off, it rumbles, so you know it turned on or off.
Hmm.
There's another button which by default goes into pass through, which is really nice. And when I'm talking about this headset, I've never tried an Index or a Pico 4. I've only tried Rift CV1s, Quest 2s, Quest 1s, PSVR 1, PSVR 2. So the higher
I think
level
we had an
headsets,
index that weekend I first tried VR was an index with this giant
nope,
paddle.
that was the
HTC Vive.
yes, the Vives.
Okay.
So I can't compare it to another like high end headset. So, but anyway, that button you can change the function of that button. You can set it to like mute, which is nice.
Hmm.
Um, Thankfully, on my headset, I have two ways to mute physically, so I don't need to. But I love that they give you that option. Um, Going back to the controllers is very strange. They're kind of big, so like Light Brigade, you put your hands together to pray for like people who have died, like other gamers. You see them kind of like their body. So you gotta be a little careful because they're bigger, and the
Clank them together.
straps come from like, so if you think of the controller as a circle, the straps come from the outside upper part of it down, and that's one thing I can't like on any other um, headset. I can just drop my controllers and I can pick them right back up. These, since they're like a whole circle, like I cannot get my hand back on the controller properly. Like
Hmm.
without like peeking under or turning the pass through on, because I can't explain it, but you just cannot find the like the
So
handle.
if you're letting them dangle, you can't use your opposite hand and pick it up and be like, oh, okay, I got it, and
I
then try
do
to
that, but
finagle this one. But
the handle is like in the middle of the circle, so you don't know if you have it backwards. And then the strap is like pulling it. It's not terrible. It's just I'm used to being able to do this and get right back to it. I'll probably at some point figure that out, but again, I'm
it's
not
just
like
one
a
of those
noob
things.
here, so the other thing about the system is I love the option. A lot of the games you can use, the move controllers, whatever you want to call them, the VR controllers, and some of them you can use the actual controllers. And I bought the air quotes elite version of the PS5 controller because I have
How much
weird,
is that?
um, same price as an elite. I don't remember, it was 3 or 350. But
Elites were like 150. What the hell?
when were they 150?
The first one, the one I still have.
Maybe I'm exaggerating. It was not that cheap, but I think the Elite Twos and these are a little higher up.
Yeah, probably.
But anyway,
Yeah.
like Gran Turismo, it's very nice because I think the battery life on the VR controller is like 4 or 5 hours depending on the game, and that's pretty much dead on. So it's nice to have a game to sit down if you've been standing and playing a lot or worked all day. If your controllers die, it's nice to have a couple options. Hey, I can just grab these controllers, let those charge because they charge super fast, but they're only 4 to 5 hours. So again, most people don't play that long, but I do. So, um, so again, if you've never worn a PSVR1 headset or two, it's the Halo, so it sits around your head, not like straps. Very comfy. Has a nice tightening thing on the back. The I just went to pass through. The main part where the lenses are, like you push a button and it pops out, so you can like look around like in the real world, check your phone, and then they like it slides back in on your face. I really like that design. Um, the headset's pretty light, pretty cool. There's a lot of people say, "Oh, it has a cord. It's pointless." It's like, shut up.
Right. Like
um,
you just can't make a judgment like that. Yeah.
yeah. So in my game room, my Rift cable is going across my ceiling on pulleys, and it's no different to me than wearing a Quest 2 or 1, whatever. So I just put some quick clamps on a couple parts of that. So if I'm gonna be standing and playing PSVR2, I just quickly throw the cable in those clamps, and I'm good to go. Like there's no, like I said, it's there's some games like Demio, Gran Turismo, couple other games like Runner, good sit down games. Nice to have the options. Otherwise, what else was I going to say here? I do love that you can fully get into the headset without turning a TV on. And another really cool thing, since the lenses are so clear and all that, PSVR1 did this, but the lenses weren't super clear. So like if I want to play a flat game, I can play it in my headset, basically on a movie screen. You can fill up your whole view, like swinging through town as Spider-Man, even though it's not VR, but it's like fucking huge. Like it's pretty fucking cool.
That's why I have
You can play any
100-inch
game with your
projector
headset on.
screen. Yeah.
Yeah, I
That's
really
pretty
like that. Because normally when I play, I have hue lights, so like even if it's pitch black, like my room looks like a freaking rave or something. Sometimes you don't want to bother other people and light up the whole house with that, so you can throw the headset on and get the same thing. So that's really nice.
If you guys haven't tried hue lights, I haven't. My video card went a little wonky. So I haven't been using them, but like in one of the coolest moments with like having your hue light synced up with your games and stuff was like the Division 2 when you first get into the Capitol. You're walking through an area and there's like red lights on the ceiling going like blink, 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 like going back the way you're walking. It's coming at you, but it's just ceiling light. But then having them like continue to blink like over your head and everything was like the coolest thing.
Yeah.
That's just
If
one tiny thing. When explosions are hitting, that shit's great. But
yeah,
I don't know. Does
my
it compare to VR?
so if I'm not playing a VR game, if I'm playing anything flat screen, I almost have to have the hue lights on. It adds that much ambience
Mm,
to it. My favorite thing is in like Assassin's Creed or Skyrim or something when you're going through a tomb or like cave dwelling or something and you pull out a torch and the
right.
light that just follows, like it is so fucking cool. Yeah, it's really neat. Highly recommend it. So yeah, overall, I don't know how long we've been talking, but um I've really been enjoying the headset. I've played it a ton. I haven't had any really major issues. Sky or No Man's Sky got an update, and Wookie and I played it, and I was in the headset probably 8 hours that day.
Yeah. We busted out the whole Utopia expedition, and we took a break at some point, I think, but like almost one
Yeah,
sitting.
yeah, and I
Um,
didn't have an issue aside from the game was having some updated issues, but they released a
yeah,
patch that
game.
fixed it. So,
Good.
but
Yeah, I
the
was
headset,
breaking this out. So no
yeah.
weight issues, no heat, no overly sweaty.
Um, the only thing, and I'm kind of a greasy bastard. Like my skin's oily, so the part that kind of sits on your forehead is kind of like I don't know the material, but it's like a soft plastic rubberish type thing. That's the only issue I have, and I'm gonna try wearing something on my head just because since it's kind of the halo effect over time. Because like you said, you kind of sweat and get warm. Like my gaming room's kind of warm, unfortunately. So if you're watching my videos, probably every half hour you'll see me kind of just raise my headset back up. I mean, it's not bad at all, but it does kind of go down, and I have it tightened properly and all that. But I think if I just
Hmm.
wore like a skull cap or something, I wouldn't have that problem. I think, and I don't have any hair on my head, so that doesn't help. So
I
normal people probably wouldn't have that.
That's why I have those balaclavas. So get a sweat wicking balaclava pack, this black and brown pack. Those work really
Yeah,
well
but
because I have long hair, so then like my headset, the Rift was real bad about it. So, like I
yeah,
twist my head and it'll just like spin along, like it's sitting on the hair, and then the hair is like moving. So the
yeah.
balaclava fixed all that.
But yeah, like heat hasn't been. I haven't. I mean, when I take it off, I kind of feel it, but it's not over the head. Like I think the Quest 2 I'm wearing right now is a lot warmer and heavier, and it's not even that heavy. So yeah, the headset's great. Like it's light. The it has this weird like accordion light plastic light blocker that really does it. Like there's no light if you have it on properly, and it's adjustable to anyone's face because it's that really light plastic accordion material, so it kind of flexes. It's really really cool. Um, they have a right here on top on the left. There's the it's a radio dial to do like the sharpness and all that, and the eye spacing. They have a really good app that pops up, and since it has eye tracking, which we haven't talked about yet, it tells you like, "Hey, I see you're looking straight ahead. This is what it should look like." It lines it up and makes it like perfect. Eye tracking is for when the first time you experience it, it's fucking weird. So I can call the mountain if you have eye tracking on. You can just look and tap a button, like the pointer will go where you're looking, and you can get through menus, and it's very nice. It's much better than laser pointer options, which I have nothing against, but in some games they are quite hideous. Um, but it's really cool. And then trying to think a couple what other games how they use the eye track. I don't know. I haven't played anything yet that really takes control of that in a game as far as like a mechanic, but it's all has the foveated rendering, so it does track where you're looking and kind of I've never noticed, but it focuses on what you're looking at, so it can save processing power all around. Like
I
it's
was
a really
wondering if
good,
they would ever get to that, like
yeah,
even in a flat game, like if they could watch where you're looking and apply blur and like hide and save things of like 'cause some games have like the focal depth and it freaks out and everything just starts changing and shit. But if they gotta get it to exactly the pixels you're looking at, and then everything kind of changed, and that would be pretty cool.
Yeah. It's kind of creepy at first, but it's really cool at the same time. I don't know. I have zero idea of how that even works or what's really controlling that. I haven't looked at it at all, but it's weird, but I dig it.
Just for cameras, I think they've had those for handicapped people, or like I have to look at. They can, they've had that for a long time,
Nice.
but I think it was big, expensive equipment.
Yeah.
And
So
now
yeah, overall, like,
in your face.
oh, go ahead.
So now it's in your face.
Yeah, that was the only last thing I really had to say anything about is like the lenses are like right next to your eyeballs, and again, I'm a greasy bastard, so I have to clean my lenses off a lot. If you're normal, you probably don't have to worry about that as much.
But I
But
have glasses on, so would that be a problem?
I think I remember someone asking about that. So that's I went in the pass through again. The way that whole thing slides, I think you'll find your sweet spot and set it up that way. But I thought I'll look into this and we'll do an update next time. But I'm pretty sure there's something for glasses that was
Sorry,
considered.
Start coughing. Sorry, try not to.
You okay?
Sorry, what was that last part?
I said that whole thing that slides back and forth. I think that helps you find your spot with your glasses.
Mhm.
But I do think there was something else mentioned as far. I hear that stuff and I don't wear glasses, so it kind of goes over my head. But I think there is some consideration for it. I'll have to look into it.
Like the Rift was terrible for glass, so much so that again I had to get a 3D printed insert that had. I think I even sent that to you. It had
Yep.
a recommendation of like a online store to get this shape and style of glasses with your prescription, and you could fit them in there, and then because like my eyelashes will get my glasses greasy on the inside and stuff. I'm like, no, because I
Yeah,
hate cleaning lenses inside these stuff. And I'm like, I'm gonna
yes, I hate that. And I think my eyelashes are longer than normal. I think, and I think that's some of my problem.
yeah.
Yeah, the only other
So
thing I would say with then we can talk about games if we want. So the controllers, it comes with USB-C cables. Everything's USB-C, which is nice. But for charging, like at the very base, there's a little port to plug in. It's very inconvenient putting two of those somewhere. So they have a nice stand. It's like $50, but you put magnetic taps in those slots and you just set them on the stand. I got that as soon as I could because one day with charging those controllers was kind of getting to me. It's like this sucks because there's cables everywhere. Like,
yeah,
um, other than that, really enjoying the headset. I'm blown away. Again, I haven't tried any of the other major expensive headsets, but I dig it. I'm really into it. 60 hours later, you can kind of tell. And they also, I'm again in the past I've been more Xbox, but Sony is really, really leaning into VR. Like there's like at least I think it's like 30 or 40 games available day one, and they have like 100 in the works just on their side of things. Plus they're helping. And again, I'm not speaking for anyone. We haven't talked to any devs in a while because we're transitioning, but seems like they're pretty supportive of devs. I could be wrong, but there's some smaller indie games on here, so it's good to see that. So I'm hopeful. Sorry, what
that
were
is
you gonna
cool.
say?
No, I just get worried. I think a lot of people are flagging on Sony right now for doing crossplay and all sorts of stuff.
So speaking of that, like all these games that support crossplay have crossplay on the PlayStation, like Demio, like all those games have it built in, so it's nice.
I don't know what the big argument was. There's stuff mad about them.
And well, before like VR, like crossplay, like Xbox was trying to get that. Everyone just had it crossplay for everything, and Sony was the last one holding out, not wanting to participate. But then mainly indie games started finding ways around that with like accounts and things like that. So then they're like,
Mhm.
okay, they're just doing it anyways. So I think they kind of got on board finally.
Yeah.
But it's neat. Like Demio is great. You buy Demio, you get the VR version, you get the flat version, cross-play with every other version, both flat and VR versions all at the same time. Like that's a big player
Mhm.
base. That's awesome. Keeps it alive. So
And
it's good to
sometimes
see
when your
that.
shit needs to be recharged and you got friends playing crap, at least you can do the flat version.
And another cool thing, the game Runner. Um, if you follow us on Twitter, like I've talked a lot about it, but they just updated this last week. They added a mode on PlayStation where someone can grab a controller and on the TV they can drive the bike for you and you can do all the shooting. That's fucking awesome.
Yeah, that's fun.
The asynchronous stuff, like we need more of that. Like PSVR1, I have no one to play this stuff with, but they had so many fun party games to do. Like I kind of feel like I missed out, but yeah,
Mhm.
I love that stuff when they can add it. So
Yeah, like back in the day, one of my favorite things was Crimson Skies, and the game bugged out. And I remember what happened. Me, you, and our friend Brace, and he was piloting the ship, and then I respawned, and I became like you could switch views, so you could be your own tail gunner. That was it.
yeah,
And I got bugged into his ship, into his tail gunner, and I couldn't switch seats, so I was just killing everything. And I think I remember voice chat broke down. So we didn't realize until way later, but I was sitting there. Not supposed to be doing that, but it was really like that made the game better. And like every game, every match after that was like
kind of ruined
it. It needs the bug. You know,
it.
so I love the multi-person vehicle.
Yeah, so other than games, if anyone listening, watching has any questions or wants me to try or check anything out, let me know and I'll get back to you. I'm definitely down to answer questions and try things. Um, so overall, like I bought my first PlayStation ever when they announced PSVR2 because they did a pretty good, oh, really good job. Like some of the PSVR1 games are great. The controllers were garbage, but the games were awesome. So I bought a PS5 at launch, just knowing PSVR2 is coming. Like I said, first PlayStation console ever, so like that's how much I dig VR. So I'm happy to see it's working so well. I hope the quality is, and everything just keeps building and just doesn't kind of go stagnant because I guess it all depends on player bases and things. But so far, I'm hopeful. Looks good, runs good. Like if anyone were to ask me out of the headsets I've tried and that are available, I would say even if you had to buy a system and a headset, like this is seems like a really good route. Like I said, they're
Yeah.
bringing a lot of smaller games over, so there should be a lot of games to be played.
Well, I mean, it makes sense that it's going to be popular. Like you can spend the same. Like if you got a gaming PC already, you could spend the PS5 and the PSVR2 money on a big headset. But then, like, good God, the problems I have with Steam VR trying to get through stuff, and it's just like it is not a good experience. And once you're in, you're having a blast. That stuff doesn't
Yeah,
matter. But like getting there, like it's the choice between I'm just gonna go actually do some chores instead of play games.
yeah,
So like getting the fact that like you've got one of the big consoles and everything that comes with that and
yeah,
VR for the price
yeah.
of a headset, like for one of the big ones, like the big screen VR headset, looks a little out there, extra, but like I was like, holy crap, that sounds fantastic, and that's like probably 1,600 bucks by the time you get the dock and the controller that
Hmm.
are optional if you already own them, which is nice. If you don't, you got to buy a little bit, or you can get a
Yeah,
whole freaking PlayStation and go play God of War.
and that was I bought it on launch day, and I'm like, well, the plan was to get PSVR1 cheap because it had been out, and I did played all the cool games, and like sweet. Now I can play the backlog I've never touched. So God of War, Spider Man, like all that shit is like sweet. But yeah, I would highly recommend if you're looking and thinking about it. I recommend it. I think it looks great. It runs great. You know, all the options we've talked about and all the little considerations, just the little things like the UX and stuff is been great so far.
Because it is tempting for me to get it, but I'm so changey and have a lot of other crap to do. And probably not get that right. But then I said I'm so changed. I've got Xbox One X. I still have the old original day one Xbox. I got to do something with. It's kind of dying. I got the gold PS4. Got two switches.
Yeah,
Don't use any of them except for like GTA. We put up the Xbox. But lately, I just haven't. Just been playing PC stuff. If anything,
yeah.
too many.
It was funny. My previous spouse had one of the day one Xboxes we had, Xbox Ones, and that thing's been dying for years. They don't play it a lot, but then that Hogwarts Legacy came out, and she's like, I was like, "Hey, you're gonna love this. You gotta check it out." I didn't. I again didn't concern me, so it went over my head. But I forgot that all the release dates were different because they did, next gen, which current gen now. Can we start calling it current gen? It's been 4 years, 3 years. I don't know,
What are you
but
referring to? Like
they,
next gen is the Series X
yes,
and the PS5.
yeah. So though they focused on those, and then for like the older systems, they're coming out in like July because they're trimming the game down and making it work. But I'm glad they went the route they did because that game is gorgeous, runs great. I love it.
It's easier to
So
clean stuff up than to start adding and improving.
yeah,
Make the game work the way it's supposed.
so she's switching jobs and had last week off. She's like, I really want to play that game, but I can't wait till July. So I let her borrow one of our Series X's, which is like me handing someone one of my children because I don't have children. um, I don't remember why I was saying that, but it's just kind of funny that it happened. Anyway, yeah. Otherwise,
Mhm.
Gran Turismo 7, I've been enjoying. Um, it was very weird to sign up for a PlayStation Plus account to have another monthly account, but I did that to play No Man's Sky with Wookie because I've put I don't know 400 hours on the Xbox version, the PC version. Now I'm already up to like 20 something on this version,
Mm.
and I still enjoy it.
I just wish it had cross saves so you wouldn't be
Yeah,
wasting. Oh my god!
and that's my same thing with. I was talking to Resolution Games about Demio. I'm like, you guys really need to get cloud saves going because I have this on 3 different headsets, and there's different reasons to play them on those headsets. But it'd be nice to carry my progress around with me. But that goes for any game, really, because
Come on, Tommy, make it happen.
especially standalone, like just as a safety thing. Like I don't want my save to disappear because my headset
Yeah,
blew up.
that was the nice thing that
Um,
Steam added way back with the cloud saves. I'm sure it's a pain in the ass sometimes, but
yeah, yeah. I'm just having a lot of fun. Gran Turismo Light Brigade's been pretty sweet. That's a game where like kind of saw a video or two of. I tried only half pay attention. You pop in there and I love it. You have no idea what's going on or like what to expect. Because it's kind of creepy at first, but once you kind of figure it out, then it's not really creepy at all. It just has a really nice atmosphere, but really fun game. Just came out on launch of PSVR2. Um, Cactus Cowboy is free on all systems, but it looks and plays great on PSVR2. That's so right then and there, you buy everything, you have a game to play without spending any more money. Star Wars has been sweet. No Man's Sky is amazing. I'm blown away. Really like
Like the
that in VR.
this PlayStation version or just VR in general?
In VR in general, but it's like when it first came out in VR, it blew me away. But like, I don't have like a super top end graphics card, so it's always been like totally like I still would rather play in VR. When I go play flat screen, like it just feels foreign to me, and I'm not into it as much. But
Hmm.
again, um, PSVR2, like it looks great. Like and I think they said there's something about an update coming because like the videos, like my streams, look better than the game does in the headset
Hmm.
by a little bit. So it's kind of weird. But again, like all these people are pushing to have all this ready for this, the release date.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm sure there are a lot of tweaks to be made. Call the Mountain, fucking gorgeous. Looks really cool. I love everything. Just not want to be climbing a wall all day long, but I'll still make through it.
Like, there is something about that is intriguing to me. Like, I do like the climbing and being able to like feel like you're in the world. Like the games that do have climbing, there's something cool about
Yeah.
it. It's just, you ever fall off?
No. Well, so like I said, when you come to a gap and you're made to jump across, I don't think I've missed it because it kind of goes into slow motion. When you walk up to a ledge, if I remember it, I tried. I don't think you can physically go over the ledge. But after a bit, like you get so high up, like I said, I make myself look down. Even heights don't really bother me, but I do it anyway, just because you can, and I'm not gonna die.
Heights do bother me. So if I'm interested in those games, like you're the height thing. Like
Yeah.
I don't know if I'm afraid of heights. I don't really go up on heights, but it's like definitely like the back of my knees feel weird
So,
when I
like I
see
said,
heights things. It's like, that's weird.
I used to work and be in high places, like, and it doesn't bother me at all. But it's still some games, like it's still like you get a little sweaty, and my knees
Hmm.
haven't ever like shake or got weak, but my palms always start to get a little sweaty, and it's just like that's where it's kind of exhausting. Like, okay, enough. Like,
Yeah, it's just weird. Like, I have really high ass feelings. So like when I fell through the ceiling last year and almost died, but like
yeah.
looking up at the ceiling, thinking like I got to go dust a cobweb 30 feet up. Like, why do they got to make these cathedral ceilings? Like, so unnecessary. You have a whole other room up there, probably. It's like you got like brooms with like microfiber cloths with hair tie, rubber banded on it, and trying to do stuff. Like when I can look up sometimes, and if I think about climbing up there, is I don't get weak knees or anything like this. The back of my knees get like a weird twin. Like if I see something in movies and see certain movies, certain games, and it's like I look up at a tree and think like I climb that. It's like, like just a little buzz. Like no,
It's just your body saying, "Hey, remember, be safe."
but that makes me want to be like, I don't listen to you.
Yeah.
I'm gonna
So
go
the
climb
only
a
other
tree
thing
and
I
fall
can really
out.
mention, so I only played PSVR2 the week of launch. Probably for the first 5 days, I put my Rift on to play because another PC game came out that we've been talking to the dev with. Played that, and then Quest 2 right now for this. Like it does feel like you feel the difference when you go backwards, right? Like
Mm-hmm.
it's like, yeah, this is heavier, and it feel like the what am I looking for? The view, like I see more black now, which you don't really notice once you're doing stuff, but when you're thinking about it,
Yeah,
the
now that you
Quest
say
2
that, I
seems
see like,
claustrophobic, yeah.
yeah. So that's
But
good that they have the hardware kind of expanding the experience, and not just like we got a solid VR headset. They're like
yeah,
making it better.
the only thing that, like I said, for the Call of the Mountain was, and I don't know if they've ever done a VR game, is just some of the menus and buttons are like, that's a very strange choice. Why aren't we?
Mm-hmm.
We're in VR. Why aren't we doing it this way? Again, not the end of the world, but like the system and the headset, everything's really good. Like it's not like
So,
they've gone backwards or just stayed there. They've moved forward with most things.
in your opinion, is PSVR 2 the headset they kind of beat now? It's not just because it's the newest one, but like the experience, like, is that much of a jump? Like if
So
somebody was like, I've got a decent PC, not sure if I can run VR, and I feel like getting into VR, what would you recommend to this?
so to me, like standalone's great. There's only like 2 or 3 titles that are like major full, like air quotes,
Killer app
full
for
games
'em? Oh,
compared to like traditional full games, if that makes sense. So I would say if you already have a PS5,
just get that
there's
one.
you can't beat PSVR2 right now. Like with all the things coming, like I said, it seems like they really have a lot of things planned and stuff like that.
And even
And the
if you don't have a
quality,
PS5, like the Quest and the standalone is great, but the only thing it
I would
has really going
say
for it is no cable.
I would say so if you don't have anything right now and you're like, do I go the computer Pico 4 or index route or standalone or PS2 VR with not having anything? I personally, as a gamer, I'd still say probably the PS5 and PSVR2 route would be the route I would take, just because you get all the other stuff, like you said, like
Mhm.
outside of VR. Um, and I haven't tried an Index or Pico 4, but like the Quest Pro, just they knocked it $500 off it, so it's 1,000 now. But still, like the catalog, like there's a ton of games, like great games, but like there's no huge games like Asgard's Wrath. I'm gonna swing and miss here. Oculus's fucking space game that's amazing. They have two of them. God damn it! But those are like major, huge games that are. Like, if you haven't played them, they're fucking amazing. But so that's my take on it. Because even when you have like a standalone like Quest 2 or whatever you have, and you connect it to PC, like the fidelity, like from what I've seen and heard, and considering the pains and hurdles that you were mentioning, I think the PSVR is just the easy, simple, safer route, and it
Yeah,
has the
like
quality built in.
because you can still do Quest 2 or Quest Pro. The Quest 2 is probably like $400 now, something like
They
that.
brought so it was 400, then it went to 5. Now they brought it just this week. They brought it back down to 430 for the larger model, which is
The Quest
kind of
1.
necessary. Yeah,
So you could, if you got a gaming PC, you could get away with having a standalone by getting a Quest 2 or a Quest Pro, or let's just say Quest 2, like five-ish, $400 or $500 range. You could get that, have a storefront that has a bunch of standalone games. You can plug it in or wirelessly stream it through VR Desktop, which is a great app, and play those PC games on your headset. There's challenges with each one of these hops and links. So if you already have a gaming PC, Quest 2 is pretty attractive. I used to have a Quest 1, and been playing like Zero Caliber on PC. And except for the Steam VR, like hijacking the menu
yeah,
button in certain cases, like there's some weird thing there. It works fine, and it's gorgeous and great. And this is on. I don't remember when I bought the Quest 1, whenever the hell that came out. It's still running, um,
yeah,
and it's fine. Like it is just fine. I'm sure the other ones have bigger, better, whatever, but it's like for the cost and the time in this, and I don't like e-waste and shit. Like it is fine. It is a VR experience that didn't have without it. It's fun.
yep,
And you can have a ton of fun playing the game. But that's where if you already have a gaming PC with a decent card, then you can spend $500 and get Oculus storefront or storefront. Fuck it. I'm just keep calling Oculus storefront, and the whole Steam category or catalog.
hmm
Sorry, the whole Steam catalog. You can just plug them in and play them. If your PC can play them, you can Steam your headset. Or if you didn't have a gaming PC, then you have the PSVR2 because it's 5 something for the console, 5 something for the headset, and
yeah,
arguably a better, without the gaming, a better experience from start to finish.
yeah,
Possibly the
and
best experience just from sitting down playing and not getting fucking angry with your PC.
yeah, and there, it's all in how much space do you have? Are you someone that would enjoy standing up for a couple hours to play something? Because that's a thing too. Like at the end of a workday, like I I don't feel like standing up and playing a motion heavy game in VR
Mm-hmm.
as much as I love them because I do. But I would love like there's people out there that'll say, VR isn't VR unless it's room scale, this and that. I'm like, fuck off.
We don't care. Yeah, we don't.
I want to. I could just put the headset on and use a controller like I had like some games do
Mm-hmm.
it, and that's fucking amazing. Like, so it all depends. Like, how much room do you have? Do you have room you can dedicate? Like for me, nothing wired bothers me. It's no different than standalone because it's all in the ceiling and all that. But there's nothing like going out in your yard and doing some shit too. Like that's a whole different
Yeah.
experience. But
I mean, there's all those personal considerations that
yeah,
if you're like nobody's even thought of that yet, and you say like you can dedicate your entire garage or a whole living room. Like I don't have a whole living room. I live in a fucking apartment.
no,
It just without that extra stuff because like not everyone's gonna have a room. I think that's room scale VR is not the accessible end of VR. Because even though I had a
so
bigger office with a Rift, like the cable on my Rift that I sent to you was starting to curly Q. Like I'm always
yeah.
worried about. So.
And the other thing is, shit, I lost it. Fuck. That's a good point too.
Hmm.
It'll come back to me. Oh,
Yeah, I'm just
I was
in
gonna
like
say, it's kind of it's hard to say like it's been out a week. This is what you should buy, but overall, uh, fuck, I lost it. That was what.
well, you lost
Welcome to
it
the
and you
podcast.
got it and you lost it. Yeah, okay. I was just trying to get at the point, like, yeah, you can't. It's only been out a week, but I mean, we kind of know what games are, games do, and all that stuff, and it's kind of like there's nothing waiting in the weeds to say, oh, wait, we were completely wrong. I mean, it can run the game
Yeah.
flawlessly without you having to do much.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I mean, how are they going to? There's nothing that would say, oh, wait, I hate for you to, nothing that could make you say, I hate PSVR2 now when you've loved it for a week. I think
Yeah.
the chances are something being like, oh, this is a showstopper.
Oh, So the reason, like the Rift CV1 is still and I say this without thinking of this headset, up until last week has always been my favorite because the audio is so good. Yes, you have the screen door and it's not like super clear anymore, but once you're in there, you really don't fucking notice unless you want to notice it. Um, the PSVR 2 with a pair of headphones is the fucking best audio experience in VR since or even after the Rift CV1 for me because it was so good. But with those, if you have the right headphones, which you got to spend a little money on, but if that's what you're into, and that's
So
what,
subjective too, because like the sensors, and I had a horrible experience with the Rift. I'll just be honest, because like it was planned out poorly. Like, oh, you should use USB 3, but only two of
yeah,
those. You can't overload your computer, so you got to have one. Like, if you have a third sensor to round out your package, you got to have a USB 2 bus. And like, I had to add. Like, I had my motherboard had a USB 2 bus, but it wasn't hooked to anything because it's a micro, and like didn't need it. But like, I had to add all this shit, and the sensors never really quite worked for me. If I get to a certain part of my office, like I spin to this direction, it would just drop my controllers. Like I have three things. How can you not see them over here? But again, I was, maybe I just didn't have enough coverage. It was just I mean, when we got in there and played, there was a magic moment. But like the setup, the things that need the things that need the sensors are horrible to me. I say that knowing the big screen one needs the Steam sensors or something like that. So it's like I get that when you set it up, if you spend the time and have the tech know-how and you get through the hurdle and you see our OneNote page of us like dealing with all the issues, getting that shit going, why somebody might be like, nah, I'm gonna go
yep,
outside and be a human for an afternoon instead of try to figure that out. I get it. Like
yep.
I get it. So the most attractive thing to me right now, like again, I'm still using the Quest One. Got some snags here and there, and I go like, oh, here and there, but it's just because the Steam VR getting in the way and this stuff. The headset itself is fine, except for Facebook. But, The only problem I have with this headset is like sometimes if you're like doing something and it's got the cameras on the front to see the controllers, so you don't need all those sensors. Like you go over here and once in a while it gets in the way, but it's like, whatever. Um, but I think PSVR2 sounds like unless you already have a massive PC and a bunch of room.
Well, and here's the issue with PCVR. Like standalone came out, everyone's focusing on that, and yes, that's been driving people into VR, and
Mhm.
that's where the money's at. So yeah, the devs should go there. But now it's the PSVR2. It's if I may be wrong, but I think it's the first VR system that has like HDR built in, and it looks
Right.
great. Like no one's making anything for PC VR. Well, not no one. I'm sorry. There's a lot of you devs out there. Don't get mad at me. I apologize. But the main focus is on standalone up until PSVR2 comes out, and that's kind of why I like it because I'm PC VR. That's my thing. I love standalone too, but I would rather see bigger, you know,
Mhm.
more
Experiences
colorful,
bigger,
beautiful
yeah.
games and have those experiences. Standalone's great, but it can't reach those quite yet. There are some, yes, don't get me wrong, but it's like so then the console comes out and does all this high end stuff. Like, why aren't we back to PC VR then? Like, why aren't we doing all that? Because
Why
my
isn't
my very favorite glory days of VR was when Quest One came out, and even when Quest Two was still out, they were still doing PC VR stuff. And on the Meta slash Oculus storefront, you got both. So it's great to have it in my game room, play it on PC, and have the best experience. But I'd also like if I'm at a cabin, on vacation, take my headset, my save moves over, I play the same fucking game. That was awesome. When there was cross
that
buy and cross play for everything, like that's where I want us
that
to be with
experience
VR.
is kind of degraded? So
Yeah,
PC should always be pushing. It always has been pushing, let's say, like the forefront of games because consoles were catching up because PCs were PCs. But like lately now, with again, not lately now, like the rise of phones, it seems like people aren't interested in tinkering with shit, and people are interested in like getting what they get and then playing and using that, not
yeah.
making it better. So PC, that's where the PC enthusiast would do that. So is PC VR going that route as well? You think?
It's already gone that route. Like it, and I would love again when we get back up and running at full speed. I'd love to have some of those conversations because now, like, a game will come out for standalone first, and I mean, it's fine. And then they'll get a Steam version afterwards. And Runner is a good example. It came out on Quest first. Now it's on PSVR and it's coming to Steam soon. And there's nothing wrong with it. I don't care where it comes out first, as long as it comes out to everything, if possible. Again, every dev story is different, and we're here to support devs over everything.
Mm-hmm.
So, um, but now, like, even though there's a Steam version, which is PCVR, there is no other version on the Meta store. So
Mm.
if I buy it on Quest in the past, like
You
you'd get
just get
both.
quit. Yeah.
But they don't even make a version. Like you don't it doesn't even exist. But it's like, well, it's on Steam, so what does it really take to have it on that too? Because I would rather for streaming
Because
and what I enjoy, I'd rather play it on PC VR. But if it's on
with
Quest 2 only, it's okay. It's fine. But
with Oculus stuff, the Meta headset stuff seems like since they don't really have a PC headset that they're supporting anymore, why would they care? They're keeping that storefront alive until people don't have those headsets, and then
yeah. Well, I
anyway.
mean, there are some devs that Resolution Games is one of them. They do awesome. They make all their games cross buy for all like on Meta at least, but it's on all platforms and all cross play. But they're still one of the few. There's a couple out there that'll still make it for Meta PCVR, so you still get the cross buy stuff. So it's not like it isn't an option. It's a dev choice. And again, I don't know what all is like what it takes to deal with Meta on those things. I've heard many things, so I'm just saying as a consumer, that was my favorite time of VR. Like cross by everything, I got it. I could play it however, wherever I wanted. That was awesome.
Hmm.
So yeah, I hope we at least shared some things and answered some questions. Again, send any questions our way. I'll check anything out. But yeah, I'm enjoying myself.
Sounds like
I
PSVR2 is the shit. I mean, really, without
I
again no skin in the game. I'm just saying, like,
yeah.
if I why not? But see, I'm the type of person who like I played the first Horizon whatever game, Horizon Zero Dawn, and I was like, I put it down. And I played Ghost of Tsushima, which PJ can attest to my love for all things that that game is, has, does, and represents. And I still was like, I'm gonna put this down for a bit. Never went back to it yet. Um, it's hard for me to keep interest in stuff like that. That's the bar for me spending tons of money. I mean, I shared on Twitter a couple times. I bought a fucking katana this week, so that's how much I like that whole aesthetic. Didn't need it; it's just pretty. Um, but like the amount that I change gears all the time, how many more stacks of consoles do I need? I'm still kind of waiting to clean my brain up a little bit if that's ever going to happen to see like what do I need to stop and take out to be able to be me, and like where does the game stuff fit in? I have no idea, but PSVR2 is starting to look pretty fucking cool. Just
Yeah.
like I said, from the racing thing, it's like I love my racing wheel, but do I want to sit there and keep it running? Like I want to be the dude that can fix everything and keep it running, but I know I'm the dude that doesn't have time to do that right now. So
Hmm.
I get nothing. I have junk. It's like, damn it. So do I throw the old wheel out or sell it on eBay and buy all into PSVR? Because I really miss the racing games. One of the most things. The VR racing is like
Yeah.
fucking phenomenal. Is that multiplayer?
Yep.
So like in my situation, so I've got a PC that can play it. I got a wheel that I need to repair. I've got a stand for the wheel. The clunkiness of the Project Cars UI in VR. No offense, they ported a PC game to VR and you have the same menu. That'd be horrible. I get it. Like in all that, do I spend 1,500 bucks getting the PSVR2 racing stuff set up, or do I just buy one wheel and hope it works? But then that would force you to use the PC one if we were playing together. Mm.
And that's why I got it, because I can go either way and it's fine. But it's
Right.
really
I
hard
mean,
because, like, especially in your scenario with, limited time and however long that may last, like, you spend 1,500 bucks, like, how often do you see yourself playing it type of thing? Like, I can't answer that. What is it worth? Like, where I've kind of built my life around, like, PJ needs his playtime and it needs to be equal to or more than his work time, or he's a different person. um, so like I said, my normal average gaming time on PSVR2 has been 2.5 hours. Like, my average play time is probably 4 hours at a pop any given day. I don't know. Um, so, I mean, I get my use out of shit. To where, like, if you don't have that time, like if it's an hour a day, is that justify you? I don't know.
I know you can't answer some of those questions, but it's just like I am also just fine just sitting with my eyes closed for 3 hours in a row too. So like I don't
Yeah,
need any shit.
but like
Uh,
with you, like we got into VR, we had a blast. You had more problems than I, like technical issues and things that just happen. It's
mhm.
kept you from playing VR as much as I think you probably would. So if you had the easy plug and play solution, would you play more? I would assume so.
But then
Would you be
again,
happier during the gameplay? Yeah.
oh totally. I wouldn't have just because sometimes it's like five. I've had to curb it down to 5 to 15 minutes. If I can't get in the game in 5 to 15 minutes, I'm just done. Sorry, I'm ruining everybody else's night if we plan to play together. But like, I'm
Yeah,
not going to be any fun anyway. I guess it's just not because I mean, if it worked yesterday, why the fuck didn't it work today? And it just does that
exactly.
shit. Um, um, yeah, the only qualms I would have is the cord. I'm not against corded VR at all. It's just I'm anal about those connectors because if I fuck that up, the whole thing's useless. So it's kind of like I had the rigged, ceiling system too, and my cable for the Rift still went all like pigtail right at the connector there. And I was like, the hell? Because I mean, I would always like stop and like, hide in a corner or playing Pavlov and try to handle that cord if I felt it was getting weird, and it's fine. Um, but like mine doesn't, roll with that kind of stuff. So I wouldn't want to fuck the headset up on playing with that. So the standalone's been nice just to wirelessly stream from the PC. You perfect that. That would be my biggest choice.
Yeah.
If they can unplug from the PlayStation and wirelessly stream to that headset. I don't think they could because they'd need the phone there, and which would make it heavier and hotter and all that junk. But if you could play all the games seated, again, I want to be standing up and active. But if you could play all the games seated, regardless, maybe that would push me that way, and I'd stand up a little bit, make it safer.
And you can do that on any headset for the most part, unless there's a few games that are like 100% room scale only, which is cool, but not everyone has that option. Like some of those games, like my game room's decent size. Some of those require a bigger room yet. It's like, okay, you're really alienating a lot of people.
Dead and Buried pissed me the fuck off with that shit. Because like I get it, but you need to fucking like, I know they can say like, make sure you have room scale. No, you need to like give me the dimensions of the fucking bar that you're going to be in.
They started doing that, like you need a room of this size to enjoy this game. And I appreciate that, but that's huge. Like nobody has that.
Yeah. And that's fine. You get, if it's for like a more like an event space, you need to put that shit on there because it's not just like, not that we're old people, but when people aren't expecting that shit, I know I wasn't. So like, it's akin to any other technology. Like when I get a text from somebody and the little text notification says like, has a few quick answer words if I don't feel like typing, like, wow, and I saw that or some weird shit. You show that to somebody who's not expecting that, again, an older person, not saying we're old and everybody but like they're not gonna know how it is. But when you say, yeah, it's gotta be room scale, it's like sitting, standing, or room scale, and like, well then I got options. But don't fucking lie to me and say that sitting also needs to be in a 13 by 13 room minimum and be like, what does that make sense? Like that game pissed me off because you had a bigger spot and your sensors were better. My sensors stuck shit. I'm rolling there, running into my fucking couch. Be like, oh, it's not 13 by 13, and I mean, I'm just making that number up. There was no fucking like thing. Like, do I just return the game now? Because that's what I don't like about not having demos. Is like returning a game is the ultimate failure on the part of the experience. Like, there should be no reason to return a game, except it has to happen. It sucks. So I don't want to buy a game and like I tout that and say, hey, just buy this, try it out for an hour, and then within 2 weeks throw it away if you don't want it. Like, there's so many barriers to enjoyment. And I know I try not to be entitled to shit, but it's also like it's nothing new to make things a little bit more seamless. Make it easier for the players and the devs to use your shit. But, I think standalone brought VR to lots of people's houses, and I get it. You just put it on and go for Nintendo style, group gaming, whatever. But I think PSVR2 is probably the only one that's going to keep it going. Because, like I said, if they're not making all that stuff, and the PC VR is still very much PC enthusiast, and like we know PCs and all that stuff. But I'm not going to sit there and fucking like tinker with shit like that to get it working. I can't. I don't feel like it. But the good thing PlayStation is picking up VR because it's like Facebook or Meta or whatever sort of like ran it up the pole, and then it seems to stagnate. And before it falls down, we need people to take the torch and run. I don't see anybody. Again, I'm in the VR community somewhat, but I don't have my thumb on the vein or anything like that. But like when I pull back and I know what I know and I see what I see, and it's kind of like there's a huge lull. Like there's all these games come out, it's like it's right there, but there's something we're in. I don't know, some like plateau at the moment where it seems like the devs, the hardware stuff is all not the devs, the hardware developers, and they seem to be resting on their laurels, which is like you're not growing, you're dying. People are going to get bored real quick.
Yeah, I mean, there's an argument there too, and like some of the original VR games are still the best, and like not that like all these other games aren't great, but it's like they take them to this point and stop. And again, like every dev's different. There's solo devs. There's like four small teams. Like I get that. That's fine. But like just VR as a whole, and like the companies driving it, like Meta, like they put out all these big games and then nothing. It's like I just need at least one or two big games, and then the rest really feel like it's all different. Like I'm in the mood for a simple small game. Like I enjoy a game that's 5 hours or 2 hours, and I play it once or twice
Mhm.
and move on. But I also need the big stuff too. Like that's just me as a gamer. Like I find
Yeah.
indie games way more creative, and on a scale of fun, they're normally more fun. But I also need like the bigger games for like story and graphics and stuff like that as an experience. Like I like all the options. But I do think PS, like you said, Sony, like, and again, that's why I bought a PS5. I'm like, I'm supporting these fuckers. They're doing great stuff for VR in general, and really um, making it easy and look good. So
Yeah. Good to hear it. I hope Xbox jumps on the VR headset bandwagon.
see, and
Because
that's where like I'm an Xbox fan, but Microsoft drops things, picks them up quickly, doesn't give them like we. I don't want to start that whole conversation, but I
yeah.
don't trust them, and they've been burnt on things, but it's kind of their own fault. It's just a mess. Like I was really honestly expecting and hoping for the ability to connect quests to like Series X and S's because they had partnerships in the past. They
Mhm.
kind of like they have Microsoft bought a bunch of devs that have VR knowledge, and it's like you got to be doing something with that, right? You're not just gonna let that go. That was my dream, but clearly that's not gonna happen. So
Yeah.
that's why I'm like, fuck it, I will buy a PlayStation for the first time in my life, and let's have some
And
fun.
I watched the video explaining some things about, mindset. And they nailed it with Microsoft because they like make some really cool shit, but it's
Hmm.
always to compete with somebody else's really cool shit, which means the parameters of their object are already set. And they're going to bounce around within those. Like the
Yeah.
Zune to the iPod. Zune is way better. Fuck anybody else does it. I'm just kidding. Like I like the Zune way better. Again, that's ancient
Yep.
stuff now, but it was like didn't matter because they weren't trying to change the world. They weren't trying to like evolve anything. They were trying to compete with one tiny thing over here. Well, way to go! You beat the crap. I was already. Somebody made something out of nothing. You made a better one, and nobody cares because
Yeah.
that's like they don't try to see forward. They don't try to like revolutionize. They just try to say let's compete. Like they keep doing that shit. Like make it better and then stick with it. Like the Xbox, you just pushed it until it was one of the top three. Do
Yep.
that with other good things. Like, come on. So
Yeah.
I don't know. It sounds like PlayStation's thing to beat if I figure out my stuff and going, do stuff like that fucking Star Wars game. Somebody on Twitter, I don't know if it was Tech Man or somebody else. I thought somebody showed side by side of like PCVR for the Star Wars game, and then the PSVR2, the PlayStation VR2, making it look like there wasn't shadows. Like it
It
was
was
like
it was only standalone, and like that game looks really good. Like it's great on the Quest. Like I played through it three fucking
mm,
times, DLC and all. Like
but the one on your
it's
video
great.
here's got like shadows and shit. I was like, holy
Yeah,
crap!
it's
Like,
a whole nother level, and that's the Demio was playing right now. And again, like the whole basement looks fucking different.
and that
But
could be HDR, could be the lack of the screen door. All those little things could add up in a
yeah,
tighter ecology or whatever ecosystem.
yep.
So
That's why I'm hoping those are the conversations again when we get back up and running and have guests again. Like I want to ask those questions. I want to hear about it. Like that's so interesting. Like does to me like PS5 has a good chance of bringing the forethought of gaming, like VR gaming, from away from standalone. To me, like
Mhm. I mean, you sit
again,
down to a
competition's
racing
great.
game,
What's that?
you sit it down into a racing game and play like, can you play that with other people playing the flat version of that racing game?
Yep.
It barriers gone. You can just sit down and be like, "Holy shit!" And then you're
Yeah.
fucking like one of the things I think I was tempting PJ with the wheel because I'm sitting there while we're doing Project Cars. I'm sitting there screaming like a little girl because like in VR you're right next to him. Like we were looking in those old 20s racers with like the wheel. It's like a silver turd with the wheels on it, and you can kind of see them. And I'm sitting over here, and PJ's like racing. He's doing his top stuff, and because he's got a controller, and I'm sitting over here with the wheel that's like trying to fucking kill me, like a real car would be doing. And like you feel everything on the road. I'm sitting over here screaming in a puddle of piss. Everyone else that's already playing that game with you is like, "Holy shit! Well, I'll have what they're having because that sounds fucking intense." Because literally, it's
Yeah.
the same experience, except for my wheel wants me to go into the wall, into
Yeah.
PJ, and that happened a lot. And it's like you never feel more closer to the road than you do in those type of cars when you're like that with that fucking wheel.
Yeah.
So you take those barriers out, and then one person has that updated experience, the VR without the wheel, and you're like, holy fucking balls. I think PJ's probably gotten people to buy No Man's Sky VR, like just because he's moving, he's like doing this, slapping people in the face, and like in the regular one, you just have your character's position, but in VR, your hands are free. Probably freaking
Yeah.
everybody out. They're probably going to go look that up. Like, how is that guy doing like gang signs and
Because it's
stuff or
funny because
whatever?
I was just doing that again the other day, and everyone in the lobby was like, you'd see them, and then they'd start then doing their emotes, and I'd
Yep,
be doing all.
yep.
It's just funny.
In the anomaly, PJ always gathers a crowd and everyone starts to do emotes, but he's just doing this, and nobody else can. I'm
It's a
still
lot of
using
nipple
flat screen
pinching.
stuff. Yeah, doing that stuff. He's putting his finger in my gun's barrel, and it's so fucking funny. Um, but just that, get
Yeah.
away from those barriers. So I think PlayStation could be kind of where it's at.
Yeah.
Because again, the complexity of getting the shit set up to go for the PC and the wheel and shit that I've had. If you can literally just sit down and be like, get my wheel out of the closet and boom, without having to mess with drivers and shit. Like if that wheel works on your PS5 and your PC, but the PS5 never goes like, I don't see a wheel attached,
Yeah.
or you need to update drivers for this 3-year-old wheel. Guess what? Drivers are unattainable, and you got to go fucking everywhere to look. Like, no.
Yeah. And the other thing is like, and again, like Gran Turismo 7, for example, like you said, can you play with people not in VR and this and that? And yeah, you can. Games built for VR probably won't have a lot of this, but for those games, like maybe there's just a night where like I don't want to wear a headset, but I want to play that same game, or like I want to
Mm-hmm.
show someone that game. Like you can do that. Not that you can't share your screen, because that's another thing PS5 has is you can share your screen right on the TV, and looks great, much better than like when you're playing PC VR and you do that.
It's got
It's
that
like in that little
weird,
box.
yeah, and it's like it's
So
really weird when you see that stuff. But if it looks like a good representation,
that's
that's cool.
that's why in Runner, someone now can drive your motorbike for you while you're shooting because it's the normal game.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of cool stuff to do with that. So yeah, I'm genuinely excited to see what happens with a lot of stuff. And again, like Runner again, not so much an indie dev. True and Pixel has made a lot of games, but they're smaller team. But the creativity and the stuff you can do, like that's always important too. And that's again why I love the indie dev games and smaller games, because there's way more creativity. But then you also want the big experiences like we mentioned.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm excited. I think I've been having fun. And so right now, like we have a Series X in the living room. It's like, okay, if there's a lot of party games coming out, does my PS5 go out there instead as a family console? Like,
Mm,
because Beth will play stuff
another
if
one.
aside from VR, like
You've always been the one that has like 3 of every console. So you find
yeah,
find another one.
Yep. She Beth asked me yesterday, she's like, "You heard of this game?" Fuck, I'm gonna do it again.
Yeah.
Octopath Traveler 2 just came out. She's like, "Have you heard of
Mhm.
this game?" I'm like, "You saw me play the first one." Like, 'cause I was checking it. There's a free demo, and then it was free on Game Pass, so I played it, and she's like, "Oh," I'm like, "Why? You want to play it?" She's like, "Oh, if it had multiplayer, I'd play it, but it doesn't." So she's like, because it's she loves to play games, and it's a very specific, well, different styles of games, but it has to be, simple and
Mhm.
non 3D for the most part because she just can't handle it. So it's hard to find games to play. So I was like really excited. I'm like, that game would be sweet. So like again, back to here. If there's more asynchronous games she can play on the TV while I have the headset on, that'd be fucking sweet.
Yeah.
Or party games in general. Like the Quest has a lot of those. PC has some of them, and they're all amazing. A
Is
lot of fun.
Resolution gonna update the squirrel game or whatever, the tree?
I've been asking them, and those who haven't played it, the one person VRs a tree, and then
Acron?
everyone's yeah, Acron squirrels, and they play on their phone. And
The VR person has to get
as
the squirrels off them, and the
yep,
phone people are running up. You could have like that on the
but
PlayStation.
I asked Tommy that one. I don't remember which episode, but on the podcast, I'm like, were there ever plans? Are there plans where I could play as a squirrel with my headset on? Because if you, a Wookiee and our nephew Logger that plays a lot of stuff with us, like if we want to play multiplayer, then play Acron for like an hour and take turns. I don't want to like take my headset off because we're all in different states. So like, I just
Mhm.
want to keep my headset on and keep playing. Like, and he's like, yeah, we tested that, and there's a, we might bring it out, but it hasn't happened. So I bug them about that stuff every once in a while. Like, remember when you said this? Where's that at? Like,
And devs do listen, because if everybody
yep.
remembers, PJ was the one that came up with the idea of painting your little figure, and now it's in the like. Is it still in beta? But they're putting that in the game.
No, that's in the
It's
game.
in. Yeah,
Well,
that's
so
PJ's
there's a
idea.
painting room. You can go in there and paint them, but you don't use them in game yet. I don't know if that's coming or not, but
Well, still, I mean, when I
yeah.
remember that episode, Tommy was like, "That's a really good idea." I was like, "Oh, they do listen, as long as you
So
are real nice and don't scream at people
yeah,
and say you need to
you,
put in a gun twirl."
but yeah. Speaking on that real quick, PvP is coming out soon, and it's going to be good. I can say that with assurance because of reasons. But yeah,
Easy
well,
now.
I don't know how long we've been going. I don't know if we're
I don't
still
know if
streaming
anybody's,
or
if this has even been recorded. Actually,
I'm recording it. So this will be the audio version at least,
if that
extended cut.
if that gets recorded.
Oh, I see what you're saying. Well, let's go find out. Well,
Thanks
if
for
you can
listening,
hear
everybody.
this, thanks for listening. We'll be back soon. Keep trying to do mini episodes in between and see what happens.
Times are tough. Thanks for your patience. I know attention spans are small. We'll get through it.
All right. Thanks for hanging out, listening. Catch you next time.
Bye.